Today we're talking customer stories. This is one of the most underrated elements of any sound B2B marketing strategy. We're going to talk a little bit about what they are, how to use them, and how to get the most out of it. All right, let's dive into this.
It's story time.
Hey guys, Bill Masitis, former CMO CRO of Slack, CMO of Zendesk, and SVP of Marketing at Salesforce. Thanks for joining SaaS CMO Pro. Excited to talk about this one today, customer stories. So let's start off at the beginning. What are customer stories? Customer stories are pretty obvious, but hey, basically like you reach out to your customers and they talk about like why they love you, right? Like how they've used you, why they think you're a great solution, the pain points they solve. They put it in their words, right?
There's something I need to tell you.
I have found in my 30 years of doing marketing, there is a propensity of what I like to call ivory tower marketing. And a lot of this applies to your messaging, right? We spend a ton of time internally thinking, how do we describe what we do and our value and our benefit? And we obsess over, that copy on the homepage, and we have to write it exactly how we think it is, right?
It needs to be perfect.
And a lot of times I call it ivory tower because you're not involving the customers at all for most of these, right? And a lot of times it's the hippo who makes the decision. Hippo, the highest paid opinion in the room, is like, well, I think we should, write our copy this way, right? And that's what should be on the homepage. And what I found was, we can go to extraordinary lengths, and sometimes we nail that copy, and a lot of times we don't, right? Or the hippo doesn't. But a lot of times you can just go and ask the customers themselves, right? Like, hey, how do you describe it? And use those words.
Describe it, please.
Or you just have the customer on the homepage, right? And you literally quote them about why they like you as a company, why they use you, the impact they've had.
Listen carefully.
It's a really simple strategy. And this was something that, as a Salesforce, I think Salesforce really embraced this. Mark was always I love the guy. He was always about customer success. And he was always about how do we turn our customers into heroes and how do we amplify that voice? And in a lot of ways, like it's such a simple strategy, right? Like go get customers, right? Talk to them and figure out why they love you, right? And use their words, use their images. Let them do the talking for you.
Why do you love me, Abby?
And think about it, like who are you going to trust? You're out there, you have to buy some B2B software. Company A is just like slick salesperson. We're awesome for all these reasons. Trust us. We're amazing, right? Company B, all the stuff you're reading is from their customers, right? It's kind of like in our consumer lives or personal lives, right? When you go to Amazon and you read the reviews, right? It's like because you want to hear other people that actually use the product. And in B2B, they have these sites, the Trust Radius and G2 Crowd. There's a bunch out there where you can actually read what real people that are using this product are actually saying.
Thank you for your feedback.
So those words, those images are so powerful, right? And places you can think about using them, right? So one is like on your events. So if you've ever been to a Salesforce event, they would always put, their customers up on the wall, like giant banners, right? Like, hey, here's how we use Salesforce, why it's so powerful. You can put it on your homepage, right? When you're thinking about what's your hero image and what's your copy, put a customer up there, right? Put a customer quote on why they love you, right? That's powerful. Your content, that's big. Your landing pages, your pricing and packaging, there's so many like layers and areas and assets, right? Your first call deck where you can infuse these customer stories.
Put it up. Yes, put it up.
Now, customer stories can be challenging to get. I've done a separate video just on how to get more customer references, especially when you're selling into the enterprise. It can be a little bit tricky, and there's a lot of like tactics and strategies to use. Check out that video. I'll include a link in the description below. But it's one of those like underused areas, right? Where I think sometimes we outthink ourselves, especially in B2B SaaS or, B2B AI. We're trying to think about how should we explain this to users, right?
Let me put it this way.
And a lot of times you don't use the same words, right? And especially, this is really hard for CEOs too, because CEOs, a lot of times, or founders, they've used the product for so long that the way they talk about it is in very different words than a prospect who's just learning about it, right? I call it like the, the platform, effect where someone will go like, oh, what do you do? Oh, we are this advanced platform that's disrupting XYZ industry that uses, ABC acronym.
Anecdotal evidence suggests that in a game of rock, paper, scissors, players familiar with each other will tie 75 to 80% of the time due to the limited number of outcomes.
And it's like the end user is like, what do you do? I have no idea what you do, right?
What was that?
But when you put it in the words of customers that are using you, they tend to use more common language that other prospects and customers understand, right? And again, they trust it more because it's coming from people that are actually using it.
You proved I can trust you.
Anyways, those are some cool ideas, tactics, strategies, rethink maybe, how can we start using more of these customer stories? I'd love to hear from you guys. Like, where do you use your customer stories? Do you think you have enough of them? And put them in the comments below. I always read those. And thanks again for joining SaaS CMO Pro.